very much. I have not been to Poland before, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm coming in November, I believe. Yes.
Today you are here in binary way.
Yes. It's actually a lot. This technology is very good for spreading Dhamma. I don't have to move my body around so much anymore. In the early days, this is the 38th reigns for me, 38 years as a monk. And in the early days, in the first 25 years or so, 30 years maybe, I had to, in order to give retreats and talks, I had to get on a plane or get in a car and go somewhere to do it. But with the advent of this Zoom and so forth, we can still get much of the benefits of the spoken delivery and with visuals without having to move through space and time. It's still, of course, good to be physically in the same room with another person, subtleties of the experience. But this allows us to contact many, many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, in fact, of people. So quite often you get a lot of criticisms of these technologies, but they are quite remarkable. This is the age of the golden age of internet monks. You are part of the golden age of internet monks. And I am also part of it.
Ajahn, if I may ask, can we ask people to let people to ask questions by themselves?
Yes, yes, indeed. I think the suggested format was that I give a kind of guided meditation, then a talk on the topic of virtue, and then a opportunity for questions and answers from individuals. Yes.
Yes, and we have those questions written down, and Władek will read them all to you. But we were thinking that maybe we could let some of whoever wants to, we can let the people to ask their questions by themselves. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
I think we will wait. It's 25, so we still have 5 minutes to start.
Yes.
We got 4 questions from the audience till
Yes.
now. I think they will require a bit elaborate answers because they are just they mostly are connected with right view. So take your time. Don't feel like we are in a rush, dear Adam.
I'm sure there will be more questions in the chats, in Zoom chat and YouTube chat, so we will catch them.
I will read them aloud for you. So
Sure. Usually after a talk, there's a period. Then I ask, now is the time for questions. Do you have any questions? But the audience usually has been in a passive mode. So their mind is not working, as so much. So they're usually stunned into silence at the moment. But if we wait, after 30 seconds or a minute of quiet, then somebody comes up with a a question. But the fact that you have prepared some questions is good. That puts people in the questioning active mode. So that's a good bridge from the end of the talk to those pre-submitted questions. Do you have any wildfire smoke out in Poland?
no.
Hope not.
No?
No.
It seems to be all over Europe, and it's certainly here where I am. British Columbia is full of wildfires and smoke, and so maybe it's a characteristic of Southern Europe, France, Italy, Spain, where the smoke is.
More like
You're
Southern
farther.
Europe. In Poland,
Yes.
it's very, very seldom to have wildfire
Uh-huh.
or large fires. Not
Hmm.
in, or maybe not now because still there are some forests, but who knows what's going to happen in the future.
Yes.
We have a lot of political fires right now, and they spread.
Ah, the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion, have you?
Yeah, there are plenty of
Yes.
those in Poland.
I'm very interested in the fact of that there's such an interest in Buddhism and Theravada Buddhism in Poland, and how does that happen? Why is that happening?
I My personal guess is that this is because we are traumatized nation. We've inherited trauma, and this creates good conditions to seek freedom from suffering. People in
Yeah,
Poland are
suffering
very
is the cause.
sensible.
Yes, I just saw a brief video of Buddhist monks going to an Indian reserve in Canada, Native Indians in Canada, which are traumatized, whole traumatized culture. And they were very accepting that. And these were Tibetan monks, and they did a lot of rituals and so forth. And the natives really appreciated it's very close to the native culture, which has fallen away. The religion and culture of the natives here have been lost to some degree. And they've been traumatized by Christian churches as well.
Yeah.
And so these Tibetan monks have made a contact with natives, and they have a very good relationship. They invite the monks to come to the reserves and do ceremonies, and it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so that were similar to us what we do in Poland. Maybe we are not Indians, but and definitely not traumatized by the church. But it resembles some. I don't know. This is my personal guess. I don't know if that's really true, but it's extraordinary that the interest in Theravada Buddhism in Poland is pretty large compared to
Yes.
other countries in Europe.
Yeah.
I think we can start. Thank you for
Okay.
coming here, Venerable Ajahn Sona. Dzisiaj gościmy Ajahna Sonę, który do nas dzwoni z British Columbia. You are from British Columbia. Thanks to the Zoom, we can connect overseas. Very nice to have you here. And the subject of today's talk is sorry, I closed the.
The foundation of freedom, understanding the power of virtue.
Yes.
Okay, if it's okay with you, Ajahn, I would like to briefly introduce you, Ajahn, that after the Dhamma talk, whenever you are ready, Ajahn, we will have a Q&A session. There will be an opportunity to ask questions, so please feel free to write your questions in Zoom chat as well YouTube chat. And okay, Ajahn Sona was ordained during the first wave of Western interest in Theravada Buddhism in 1989 and is now the abbot of Birken Forest Buddhist Monastery in Canada. Today, Ajahn Sona brings together the Sri Lankan Buddhist tradition and the Thai scholastic and meditation traditions in his teachings, while also bringing a modern Western perspective. His pre-monastic education in philosophy, the humanities, and Western classical music has given him a deep understanding of the Western mind and enabled him to build meaningful bridges between Eastern and Western ways of thinking. We warmly encourage you to explore Ajahn Sona's teachings, which are available on the Ajahn Sona.pl Polish language YouTube channel, as well as on Ajahn Sona's official YouTube channel, where hundreds of recordings have become a valued resource for both newcomers and experienced practitioners, offering a clear, practical, and accessible presentation of the Buddha's teachings. Ajahn, you have a remarkable gift for making profound teachings memorable through simple, everyday examples. Whether it's your drop down menus analogy or even the Buddha's phone number, these images stay with us as long after the talk has ended. Waiting for another opportunity to listen to your teachings reminds of how years ago people would eagerly count the days until the next episode of a favorite series. There is the same sense of joyful anticipation, except that what awaits us is teaching something far more meaningful. Today's meeting is especially meaningful for the Polish community. It truly feels like a celebration for us, and we are deeply grateful that you have accepted our invitation. Venerable, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, I would like to begin not quite with a guided meditation, but a guide to how to do meditation. Instead of guiding you along in the spoken word with a guided meditation, I would like to just talk about how to do your own preparation to guide yourself into meditation. So, people often rely, especially in the beginning, they rely on a guided meditation, a kind of soft spoken with lots of long pauses between the words to help fix the mind on a meditation subject. And I do this from time to time. I don't do it as much as many monks, but I would prefer actually to talk about how to prepare your mind for meditation, for any meditation session. So, especially in Buddhist cultures in Asia, both for the monks and for the lay people who do meditate, and by the way, this word meditate, it has a approximate Pali word for it, which is bhavana, which is to cultivate the mind. And it is very similar to gardening. We're growing crops. We are removing weeds, we're preparing soil, we're planting seeds, and we're also spending a good deal of time looking at the seed catalog, especially in winter. It is a beautiful thing this would be to read some suttas on certain topics and think, I would love to have that grow within me. That sounds like a beautiful flower, a beautiful plant. And so this is how the Buddha talks about it. And so meditation is gardening. And unless you're perhaps working commercially in agriculture and you see it as a lot of very hard work, this is the garden in your special garden in your backyard. And it's to produce flowers, it's to produce perhaps vegetables and fruit as well. But it's that special place. And you'll see that a lot of people, when they have time in their lives, some people, of course, decide not to have a regular job, go to work. They move off into the land, as they call it. In the 60s, people went back to the land, especially in North America, where there is a lot of land, uncultivated land, and you could still just go back to the land. And that generation said, I would prefer instead of staying in the city, working in an office, I would like to go back to the land because I want to raise my own food. I want to manage my own garden. Well, this is really the spirit of meditation. It is to raise your own garden. You will see this in all kinds of poetry and special thinkers in the West as well. The idea, there's a beautiful phrase from an English poet, all I want is a large garden and a small house. Notice the difference. The small house is merely the essentials of life. The large garden is the beautiful cultivation of the inner spirit, the inner life. So the garden is the inner life. And of course, you need a small house. In many people's value structures, they value that they want a large house and maybe even no garden. They want somebody else to take care of the garden. But eventually you find that large house is merely a structure. It doesn't nourish you. It doesn't grow the food. It doesn't grow the beauty of the flowers. It doesn't give nourishment. So people can find after investing in the large house that it's merely an empty structure. So this is what meditation is devotion to the gardening process. And it's very personal. It's not a boring job. It's not something that you have to do. It's something you choose to do. So when you prepare your mind for meditation sessions, you can even put on different clothes as you do when you go to the garden. Maybe you put on your Saturday coveralls, your special shoes for the garden, special clothes for the garden. You set out in a special way for this beautiful activity, and it is an activity. It is a cultivation activity. You make plans. You wish certain things to come into existence. You wish to increase the ease of the heart through such beautiful flowers as the process of loving kindness, or loving what we call friendliness, profound friendliness to oneself, to others. That would be also how one would feel going into the garden. You get a personal relationship with a rose bush, you know. You love your cucumbers. They're like your children. We have a very large flower garden here at Birken, and it's cultivated. It's a whole community project. First of all, in order to get a spot for the land, we had to use machinery to clear off areas. And that involved a group of people. So that was a community activity we're looking forward to. There's no garden yet, but we're going to prepare the place. So this is also the mind. The garden doesn't appear instantly. It requires preparation. It requires a place in your house, perhaps. A place to go that is special for this project. Might even require removing some furniture or adding some furniture or a mat or something. Maybe a few icons, a Buddhist image, something like this, maybe even some flowers. So this is the preparation, the external preparation. And then we had to bring in soil. The soil for the mind is some degree of aspiration and some degree of trust that there is such a thing as meditation, that there is such a thing as taking control of your own mind and growing beautiful things within your own person. This is not, many people would not believe that it's possible. They feel that they are a done deal. They're a complete unit that just operates, and it has been formed by the past, and they don't, it has never occurred to them to cultivate it. It's just land that they inherited. Tangles of brambles, maybe a certain amount of garbage has been dumped out the backyard. You'll see whole houses like this. You see backyards like this. You see interiors of houses like this, full of bric-a-brac, garbage, inherited artifacts, neglected, a lack of energy within the person to do anything about it. And perhaps it gets to a point where it's so bad that the neighbors complain. They have to do something about it. They come in and remove all of the garbage and neglect. And this is the nature of the interior of the human as well. This is not new in human existence. But people like the Buddha, and there are other people who have talked about the cultivation of the mind as well. They insist that you must make an energetic effort to garden the mind, and that you can garden the mind. There are whole philosophies that insist that you cannot make effort, that you are predetermined, rigidly have no capacity for choice or what we would call free will in any way, and that you are merely a machine, an automaton that must operate on given habits. A lot of people walk around like that. The Buddha is insisting that you and you alone are responsible for your life, for your garden, for your backyard, and that you have an opportunity to do some beautiful work there. So this, you must inspire yourself. It is not just an exercise. Meditation, taking up your own meditation practice, is not like having to go to school, where we're all sent off as children to school. We must go and we must sit and wait for the bell to ring, and then we go to the next class, etc. This is kind of forced education. It's necessary, but it is not necessarily inspiring. A few special children do actually enjoy and look forward to it, and when you do, you do well with the subjects. But meditation cannot be looked at as a dreadful exercise, something boring. Otherwise, you will learn how not to do it. So you must talk it up. You must inspire yourself. You must look forward to the opportunity for entrance into the garden. And working in the garden is sometimes sweaty. You perspire, and you get some exercise, and you can feel it. Maybe the next day you feel the exercise, you feel it little in the muscles. So part of meditation is sometimes requires some mental sweat. But it's a good sweat. It's a good exercise. It's not a gymnasium exercise. It's a beautiful much more natural exercise of the mind. Cultivation, looking forward to the beautiful results that you will get. So you can work out in the garden, and this requires energy. This is the first part of understanding meditation, that you can't just instantly get to the stillness and peace, really. Quite often when you try to do that or expect that, you simply fall asleep. You become dozy. You drift off because you haven't raised enough energy yet. Energy is required for meditation, an active kind of meditation, and that will prepare the mind for eventually to enjoy the stillness and peace that comes. So you want to think about this in terms of how to meditate. You inspire yourself, you give beautiful imagery to yourself, and you prepare yourself to realize this garden. But you realize you're perfectly willing to put in some sweat, and you can always have a shower afterwards, right? And it's like going for a bicycle ride as well. When you ride a bicycle, you have to pedal, and sometimes there are hills. You pedal, and it's beautiful. It requires muscular effort to pedal a bicycle, but pedaling uphill is strenuous. But when you get to the top of the hill, you can then coast downhill without pedaling. But you can't coast before you get to the top of the hill. So you have to pedal to the top of the hill before you coast down with the wind in your hair. Now, I have no hair, but the wind still blows through my scalp. So, this is a beautiful experience. So this is beautiful effort, which will result in this gorgeous ability to drift and coast effortlessly in a joyful experience. The after effects of this activity in the garden. If you try to just go out on your back porch and sit down in the shade in the morning and stare out at your backyard, your garden that's going to be, and think you can enjoy it, you will just drift off into sleep. No, you have to go out and work in the garden, especially in the morning before the sun gets too hot. So you work in the garden, and that effort is strenuous. But after the work in the garden, then you can go sweaty and a little dirty and go and have a shower. And then you can come out on the porch after the work in the garden. And you can get your lemonade and sip your lemonade. And instead of just going to sleep, you will experience joy and serenity. The joy and energy which is generated by the work is the experience that carries you into serenity. You can serenely, joyfully look out upon the garden at your work. And so this is the way it's laid out by the Buddha. These, what are called the factors of enlightenment, the mind, the enlightened mind, the beautified mind, the gardened mind. You will see that the first factors are mindfulness, investigation, that's in looking at the seed catalogs, finding out what you want to do, understanding this process, then energy and joy. So this is the first active factors of the enlightened mind. You must pay attention. You must investigate what it is you're doing by listening to talks like this. Energy is raised. You become energized. And with energy comes joy. Then it's only after the work, this energizing and so forth, that something begins to occur. And this is this word called passaddhi, or tranquility, follows this. So this is sitting on the porch after that. Or it's after coming home from a long hike through the forest and sitting down, even with some friends. Have you been on a hike with the friends? Some sweaty, maybe a few blisters even on your feet, something, or a bicycle ride. But then you come home and you feel the afterglow of your efforts. You've made effort, now you get some rewards for that. And the rewards is that you can access tranquility, and it may slip into a deeper thing called samadhi. So you're sitting out on the porch after the gardening. It's 5 PM. You've decided to have some lemonade. You've had a shower. You're looking at your lovely garden as it's developing. And suddenly, it's 9 o'clock. The stars have come out. How has this happened? It seemed like an hour had gone by, but 4 hours have gone by. That's samadhi. That's passaddhi and samadhi. Those are tranquility and the beautiful state of mind called samadhi. Time collapses. Time contracts. Time flies when you're serene. We have this saying, time flies when you're having fun. Well, this is a very special kind of fun, the best kind of fun. Most people think fun is laughing loudly and so forth, but there's more refined kinds of fun. There's the afterglow of this energetic and creative act of meditation, which is cultivating and developing this garden, learning more about the gardening techniques. And of course, if you're a smart gardener, you talk to old gardeners, people who have good gardens. So the Buddha says, if you want to develop samadhi, talk to people with samadhi, hang around with people with samadhi. If you want to develop knowledge of the Dhamma, hang around with people who are knowledgeable of the Dhamma. These are gardeners. They will tell you all kinds of tricks about how to make those flowers grow, how to take the petals off at a certain time and then they come back even stronger, etc. So this meditation is not totally disconnected in any way from the knowledges we have about the world. This is also music. In order to develop very beautiful, exquisite music, one has to put preliminaries in. Now, if any of you have taken piano lessons and so forth, it can be a dreadful thing, a boring thing. Many children are sent off to learn piano, and only 10% of them keep playing. So it's the wrong attitude is brought to it. So one of the things, before I was a teacher of monastics, of Dhamma, I was a music teacher as well. So I knew the experience. You could either have a dreadful experience, a boring experience, or you can make the person understand we're working towards something beautiful here, music. But we need to put in preliminaries. And when we pick up the instrument, when we go to the instrument, we also see how beautiful the instrument itself is. We prepare it. Have a special room for your piano, a special time, a special way of sitting. I was a classical guitarist, And one of the things, when you open the case of a beautifully made classical guitar, there's a beautiful perfume that comes out of the instrument. They're made with spruce or cedar. They're made with ebony, etc. And there's even 20 years after the instrument is made, you open the case and there's this perfume comes out of it. So with this meditation, this is how you approach this. This is not a dreadful exercise. There's sweat involved, there's effort involved, but it's always with a beautiful vision in mind and towards this beautiful thing called a garden. So you must, why am I talking like this? Why am I giving similes like this? Because the Buddha does this. This is the mark of good teaching. I need to connect with you, something that you've done in your life, that you have had experience of in your life, how things work in the human mind, in the human heart. And that, if we think that meditation is an entirely different thing, that is a disservice to people. We connect it to things they already know, and they can apply that process that they have done to this meditation. Oh, it's like that. I see. I know about that. But we must give them the right simile. If we give them this dreadful, this is just an exercise that's supposed to help, do you good, it's all sweat and so forth. A lot of people have had too much experience with that. No rewards, just hard work and barrenness and no rewards. So we don't want to do that. This is towards a fantastic level of beauty, which is almost indescribable. In fact, that is exactly what the Buddha said. At certain point, words fail because it's a quality of happiness and well-being that exceeds that which we find in worldly activities. So this word nibbana, nirvana, is a quality of the mind, attainment of the mind, that is exquisite beyond expression. Words fail. So this is not a guided meditation, although even as I'm speaking like this, some people are drawn in to the serenity and the beauty of just listening to beautiful similes and imagery. So it's kind of a guided meditation, but it's also a guide to how to meditate. So I will leave that for now as the preliminary. We would let's pause for a minute and just change, before we change channels into the talk. And you'll hear a bell in a minute or so. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. The topic is virtue leading to freedom. What is the exact wording? Do you remember? We have somebody behind the camera here reminding me of the exact words of the topic.
Tanya, could you repeat the topic?
Yes, the foundation of freedom, understanding the power of virtue.
The foundation of freedom, understanding the power of virtue. Yes. Virtue in itself has a bad reputation. It has a bad reputation is because you've been told to behave yourself. And quite often behaving yourself seems like depriving yourself of some opportunities in life. So we have to redeem the reputation of virtue in the modern world. This is like somebody who was once popular and has fallen out of favor. You know, somebody new people have become the stars, and they misbehave. They're what's called anti-heroes. They misbehave, but it seems that they have a lot of fun. And then virtue, the heroes that used to maintain because of virtue have been edited out of the stories. They've fallen out of favor. This is a big mistake. Big, big mistake. Virtue never gets old. It never, if it's misunderstood, virtue is kind of like what we call music. Some people play the notes, other people play the music. And when you first start playing music, you don't really play the music, you play the notes. And it's you just like learning to another language, learning to write. First of all, it's just words. Eventually, something beyond the words happen when you string the words together in the right way. Something beautiful comes out of them. So, virtue, in its primitive form, is given as a series of in the West, from the Bible, it's given as a series of commandments, the 10 commandments. Notice it's commandments, already kind of like orders. From a Buddhist point of view, we would call it precepts, guidance, things which, if you want to be happy in life, you should avoid doing. There's certain things that wise elderly people say, you know, here's some of the mistakes you can make. I can't really explain right off the bat why you shouldn't step over these boundaries, but if you do, there's going to be negative consequences. You will wish you hadn't. But that's only half of the story. Virtue, the rough virtue, can be described as don't do this, don't do that. So from the Buddhism, the basic precepts for lay people are do not kill conscious, sensitive beings. But so from a Buddhist point of view, it's very advanced in a sense. This is 2,500 years ago. When you think how many cultures did not even have any sense of alarm or hesitation to kill even other humans, let alone animals. You see how advanced this is. This is still somewhat in the future. The idea that you should not harm conscious, sensitive beings. And the Buddha says, you know, all beings fear death. They tremble before violence. Knowing this, how can you harm them? Because he says, you fear death. You tremble before violence. They fear death. They tremble before violence. They flee pain. So knowing this, this is this is this is the basis of this idea. It's just empathy. You understand how other beings feel. They feel like you. Not all people, not all cultures ever understood this, that others are like them. For many cultures, others are others. They're not us. They don't feel like us, and especially the animals. Strangely, in modern times, it's only in modern times that actually as in the Western scientific tradition, that people begin to study the complexity and the feelings of animals. Before that, certain religious structures, which influence most of the world, do not have much sensitivity to animals, how they feel, that they also have some what we call human qualities. This is only thanks to actually Charles Darwin that we in the West have sensitized to these beings we call animals. The reason why is Darwin had to make a connection to evolutionary theories that we humans are carrying traits of animals because we've evolved through animal processes. And those animals still have how some of the experiences we have. So they take care of their young. They have empathy for other beings, etc. So it's strange that just to establish his theory, he actually changed the attitudes of the West towards animals. Before that, it was horrendous. New societies come into existence that weren't there. One of them is in the West, we call it SPCA, the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. This is a modern idea. Buddhism, the Buddha had this 2,500 years ago. Why? Also from a Buddhist point of view, this is the deep understanding of Buddhism, is that he also has an evolutionary theory. He's an evolutionist. He says, you have been animals. And some of you will be animals as well. You are not entirely separate. You evolve, you can devolve, you move between these types of existence. Consciousness flows and forms between types of existence. They are all you. You are them. You could have been one of them, etc. The more you understand this, the greater your illumination, your self-illumination is. So this is where we get this idea of freedom that virtue is a basis for freedom. If we don't start with this basic, do not cross this line, that's the negative side of it. Don't do that. But the positive side of it is, it's not virtue yet. It's just restraint. Virtue is because we don't kill other beings, sensitive, conscious beings, because we understand them. We feel for them. And we acknowledge that the biggest problem in existence is suffering. So this is why. Now, this is liberating. This allows you to have an experience of consciousness of the heart. Now, this is not intellectual. The ideas are intellectual and must be understood, but it opens the heart. And if this heart has not been open, it is not functioning, you will feel deprived. You will be in a constant state of deprivation, of feeling not full, not well, not complete. And only if you understand the inside workings of virtue, can you come to this feeling of fullness, warmth, and completion. And so that is why virtue is the basis. Now, that is its function. That is why we do that. In the West, we have a whole philosophical tradition that asks the question, why be good? Why? Is there such a thing as morality? There's whole schools of views on this that dismiss there is no morality. There is no good, no bad. That's all just old religious stuff and so forth. The Buddha manages to skip around this whole argument by saying, all I'll tell you is that if you don't see it this way, you can't get here. You can't experience what I'm talking about because the preliminary steps have not been undertaken with full sincerity. You don't just walk through the motions. With full sincerity, that means that there's something deeper, that these precepts, this virtue is actually rising out of right view. Right view, if you don't have the right view, remember the entire teaching of the Buddha is this. There's only two things, he says, at the end of, throughout his whole life as a Buddha. He says, I only teach two things. Suffering. The end of suffering. That's my whole philosophy. Don't take it in any other direction. And here's how you do it. And by the way, if you don't want to do this, I don't really have time to convince you. If you're not actually coming towards me and inquiring, I really don't have time for it. I'm not here. I'm not knocking on your door, insisting that you do this. I'm not telling you that it's delivered from God or anything like this. I'm just telling you there's a little structure within you that you are born with. And if you do not open the doors, and these doors are in your mind, they're at a place in your mind, but very few people have opened the doors. They're sort of behind your closet in your bedroom. Then you never knew there was a door there. By the way, you see lots of fantasy novels and so forth where there's an extra room in a house, Well, the Buddha is saying there's several rooms in your house. You'd be surprised. There's a room after that, and another room after that, and another room after that. And the door is hidden behind a wall. But if you go behind that wall and you tap on the wall a few times and so forth, you find there is a way to open that door. It's built into the system. And if you don't discover that door, you can't have this. That's all he's saying. It works like this. It's not delivered from God or on high or by science or anything like this. It's delivered only by discovery, deep inquiry and manipulation of the mind itself, and can only be done by introspection. But the first step, the door doesn't open if you don't know that if you do certain things, the door remains closed. It's only if you do not do certain things that it's possible to open the door. The door then requires a positive side to these precepts. Not only do you not kill, you do not kill because you can't kill. Because, as you know, with your own dear, loved people in your life, those who are close to you, and this may be your dog, or your cat, or an old horse or something that you own, you love them. And because you love them, you have opened a door that is closed to those who do not know about love. Those who would easily kill these beings, they cannot open that door. It's only, you do not kill. Not only do you not kill, but you do the opposite. You cherish, you love, you take concern. So this is virtue. It is not merely the absence of negative things, it's the presence of positive things. So then there is theft, stealing, taking things, taking people's things. This is two things. One is we don't like our own stuff being taken. We like stuff, we have stuff. And it's ours. And so that should be respected. But why do people take things? It's because they want the thing. Or they're angry at the person who owns it, so they take it away in order to injure them. So this type of motivation has gone. You can't be too greedy and have the warmth. Greed is as lack. When you want something, the very instant you want it is the instant you lack it. You now are missing it, and you are incomplete. That's what wanting is. People think, well, what's wrong with wanting things? I want this, I want that because it'll make me happy. What you're saying is, I cannot feel happy if I don't get that thing. So I'm going to delay my happiness, refuse to be happy until I get that thing. But what if, say, the person beside you doesn't want that thing? They're happy right now. So it must not be the thing that gives you the happiness. It must be you that gives you the happiness. By not wanting the thing, you feel that you have the thing. It's better, it's as good as having the thing. To not want the thing is to have the thing. And if you don't want very much, you have basically everything. You find that you feel full and complete. And so this is the opposite side of the do not steal, is that abundance is known by less wanting. The other thing, when you get into a situation, feel like this, this is called dignity. A human, you are now a dignified human who is not walking around hoping and wanting. And this is kind of a mental illness, hoping and wanting to get things. You are a sane person and dignified. And you would not, it's undignified to take things. You would not stoop to that. It's too undignified. Even a paperclip from the company, the billion-dollar company you work for, you would not. Are you worth more than a paperclip? Of course, you're worth more than a paperclip. You would give away your dignity for a paperclip? For a pencil? What? No, no, no. So this is, you are only as dignified as you grant to yourself. Some people do not grant dignity to themselves. They do not feel dignified, and therefore they feel undignified, and what not dignified means to be stained, incomplete, less. And the only person that can ever decide whether you're have dignity or not is you. So this is the positive side of this. This is also a gift to others. All of the precepts, that virtue is not simply the door to your own freedom. there's another beautiful aspect to it, and that is it's a gift to other beings. You give them the 5 gifts. You give them the gift of safety from harm. When you're a loving, your dog, you have this dog for 10 years, and you feed them and pet them and talk to them, and they love you unconditionally. And you have given that gift to them. You are not simply one who doesn't kill them or injure them. You are the gift that keeps on giving. So a person who has goodwill and is virtuous is a gift to other humans and all animals as well. You feel safe with them. That's the gift of safety. You're in their presence. You are relaxed and feel safe because they would not do anything to harm you. They will not take your things. The 3rd precept is sexual interference with other relationships. You can trust that person in terms of if you have a committed relationship with somebody, they do not interfere with that. They honor and keep you safe. They would not dream of interfering with your committed relationships. So that is a gift, The opposite is a threat, isn't it? A person who would harm you is a threat to others. So they're a deprivation. They're the opposite in society. They're not only not giving gifts, they're taking away your sense of safety. They would do you harm. They would take your things. They would interfere with your committed relationships. They would lie to you. So the virtuous person does not lie to you. They don't tell you lies. They tell you the truth. If it is beneficial. They don't lie to you, never. Not even when it's beneficial. They don't lie to you. But they give you the gift of truth with a sense of appropriateness. They don't just bluntly tell you things that may disturb you, but are true, but they don't benefit you. They tell you the truth, and which is beneficial. Sometimes it's not. You don't want to hear it. It's unpleasant, but they know it will do you well. It will be good for you to hear it. It will benefit you, and they trust that they care enough about you to tell you something that is true and beneficial, but it's a little hard to hear. But because they are virtuous, they will say it anyway. And in retrospect, when you think back and think, I'm glad they did. I needed to hear that. So this is the nature of virtue. It is that which allows the virtuous person has its foundation towards the end of suffering. This is all the Buddha says. Like, we don't need to bring in God or whether there's real morality or anything. All I'm telling you is this. If you do not understand what virtue is, you cannot open the door behind the closet. You cannot get into the room where you're free from suffering. You just can't. You can have all the fancy philosophy and reasoning and logic in the world, and that's the nature of the limits of reason and logic. It's also the limits of certain faith ideas. All I'm saying is you can't get in there without these preliminary realities. These are the virtues. And it's rooted in right view. And so when we see an essay called Why Be Good, say, because if you're not, you will suffer. So the last precept here is intoxication, and as one of the most interesting areas of psychology, I spent a lot of time studying why people are addicted to drugs and alcohol and so forth. And modern psychology has a lot of interest in this as well. And that primary cause is a sense of lack. There's a lack there. It's often just, some schools would say it's rooted in trauma. Some sort of trauma means you've been wounded. Trauma is wound. You've been wounded somewhere along the line. You got a wound that is painful. And these drugs and alcohol are often soothe that pain, or at least diminish it. But but you can't. It also has its costs, and it's a loss of mindfulness. So this is the nature of the precept: is not to take anything which reduces your mindfulness, your capacity for clear thinking, because it's only through this clarity that you can undertake the journey. Without the clarity, without the capacity to focus and remember the instructions, you can't make progress. You can't heal those wounds. You can't undo those wounds. And by the way, that is the point of the exercise. That is the end of suffering, meaning that the person who has gone on the path, the voyage, has healed the wound. The wound is no longer paining them. And it's through a process of clarity. It's a process which requires goodwill. Much of the wounds are to do with ill will. Some of the wounds are attempting to displace them through what is called greed, or like focusing on accumulation. But both of those have been overcome by the person on the path, the wise person. They no longer have aversion. They no longer have hate and seething anger towards themselves or anybody else. And instead, they have access to warmth. They have access to that beautiful room in the back that is just the most beautiful room in the house. That is loving kindness. They have access to it. You can enter. So they dwell in a beautiful place. These are, by the way, these things, what we call loving kindness or metta, is referred to as a dwelling, a vihara. The dwelling of the gods. It's more beautiful than any of the earthly kings can create, any of the earthly billionaires, etc. They all have their super mansions and etc. None of them compare to the place. If you develop this, none of them can compare to your place. But only the only guests you can have in there have to have cultivated this thing. You cannot bring somebody in there who does not have a special pass, that does not cultivated the heart for goodwill. So just this basic thing called loving kindness, really profound goodwill, is a mansion of unbelievable beauty in which you dwell. You live there. You spend the days there. You can spend the nights there as well. If you practice it deeply, your dreams will be symmetrical, radiant, beautiful. They are influenced by your thought processes during your waking hours. Just as the opposite, if you dwell in hate, fear, etc., you will have nightmares. Your dreams will be nightmarish. If you dwell in the opposite, Not only your days will be full of this effulgent light and sense of exquisite fullness, and safety, but also right into the unconscious mind, the dream mind as well. So I think we have, that's about what I want to say about virtue. It just touches on it, but it's very important that we remember that virtue is also gifts that you give to the rest of the world. It's not merely selfish by following these precepts, not just for you, but others experience these qualities in a person as gifts. Yeah. So if you want to give gifts to others, cultivate your virtue and cultivate the roots of it so that you also are full of this sense of well-being. Virtue is another word for well-being. So I would like to leave that for you now, and we will be open to any questions that you have.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for the very nice Dhamma talk. Now going to the question, you can, I remind just you can write the questions in the chat, but we have some questions from the audience written before, and I will start with them. The first question is, how can I deal with constant thoughts about the future and daydreaming? Since childhood, I've spent most of my life thinking about who I will become in the future. Time just keeps passing, and I worry that if I don't change, I will die as a dreamer who wasted their life on endless dreams, plans, and the idea of becoming. I know that many of these thoughts are simply foolish, yet the habit is so deeply ingrained that my mind keeps getting trapped in these mental wars despite knowing better. What can I do about this?
Yeah, that's probably a result because you're probably intelligent. So you have cultivated a fantasy life, daydream life. This couldn't happen in early school. When you go to school, if you're fairly bright, sometimes the schoolwork is not stimulating. So you tend to cultivate distractions because you don't like boredom. And so you fill your mind with something that is more interesting. And this is quite an interesting tendency. It's quite often the case with bright people. They have an inner fantasy life. However, you have come to the point where you realize this is a nuisance, actually. It's so habitual to me that I'm not alive to the present. I'm not here for my life. I'm living an alternative sci-fi novel. I'm living a science fiction novel instead of my life. And so this is something which is quite startling, that when you come to meditation, and by the way, the best meditation for the cure of this is breath meditation. Breath meditation, let me just briefly talk about, lots of people have different versions of breath meditation, but I'm just taking as close as I can get to what I think the Buddha taught. When you breathe, you have your nose is here, and air comes through your nose, and it swirls around in this little thing called your nasal cavity. There's a nasal cavity, then it goes down into your lungs, and then it's around in your lungs, and it comes back up around the nasal cavity, and then out your nose. I'm looking at myself in a camera, and it's not mirror image. It's turned around opposite. So when I do my finger gestures, I'm going the wrong way. No, your nose is over here. So that nasal cavity is where you feel the air come in. And it enters your nose. When it enters, the breath is cooler because the room temperature outside is cooler than your body temperature. Your body temperature is 37 point whatever, 38 degrees Celsius, 98 degrees Fahrenheit for those Americans. And the room temperature is rarely that warm. It's maybe 22 or something like that, 20, or if you're outside, it's even cooler. So you experience the in-breath as cool in the nasal cavity. Goes down into your lungs and warms up to body temperature. It comes out as neutral. You don't feel it as warm, you feel it as neutral. So there's a good place to experience the breath. A lot of instruction is just the nostrils, or the upper lip. Those are very, very subtle. Lots of people can't feel it there at all. So it's really hard. But inside the nasal cavity, you can feel it there. Very soft, change of temperature. So now the instructions are to not to think, not to fantasize, not to remember, not the future, not the past. Just experiencing the breath, the entire duration of the breath. Not as it goes into your body, just there. You just, as if you were standing by a doorway, and everybody who has to come into this room has to go through that doorway. And everybody who goes out of that room has to come through that doorway. So you're going to keep your attention right at that doorway, the nasal cavity. And this is a tremendous demand on attention. And there are no words, and there are no images. There's nothing. It's just the breath, which is air, isn't it? Your breath is just air. Air has no shape, no color, no form. You only feel it. So it's just the feeling of air. Can you sustain your attention on that without wandering for even 5 seconds? See if you can. This is the beginning of stopping daydreaming. This is how you stop daydreaming and remembering, fantasizing. Your whole life is going to go by and you were never there for it. You'll come to the end of your life, realize that you never lived. It was instead, all kinds of distractions and fantasies. So this is a remarkable exercise. And by the way, this fantasizing and so forth is, I would say, critically part of modern education. You are rewarded for your capacity for discursive activity, discourse in the mind, thinking, analytical thinking, and remembering the right answer. Now, the right answer is whatever the education system tells you is the right answer, but you will get an A and a reward for thinking and remembering the right answer. And your value and your job and all this kind of stuff will rely on that capacity, and they will over cultivate that. That takes place right up here, and when you do excessive amounts of that, in fact, you feel heat up there. The excessive prefrontal cortex is where this happens. If you don't know about anything else, you are condemned to continuously think. This is a wretched condition. The only escape is through sleep, or perhaps extreme drunkenness. They tell you, and of course it's necessary to learn how to think, but they don't tell you where the off button is. Is there any alternative to this? Are we condemned to be just a thinking thing? And the Buddha is saying, that's not you can never be at peace if you can only think. There's an alternative to that, which allows you to be present and fresh, spring-like freshness of the present moment. But here's an exercise he's going to give you to learn how to stop fantasizing, to be present. to, in fact, just enjoy the breeze blowing across your face, right? And he says, I'm going to give you this little thing, and it's going with you everywhere. It's your breath. You can do it at the bus stop. You can do it in the taxi. You can do it at the office. It goes with you everywhere. So that is the key. That particular exercise is the treatment for excessive discursive activity, which is the largest disease. Yes, it's a disease of the Western world. Except for those who dropped out of education, never read a book in their life and everything, and often they feel a little better than the ones that didn't. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay.
During the process of awakening after deep and prolonged meditation, the Blessed One gradually gained profound insights into the nature of the reality, the Dhamma. This included knowledge of his many past lives, the universal law of karma governing all beings, and the Four Noble Truths. How did this process unfold in detail? Insight into one's own stream of consciousness is already something truly extraordinary, but the ability to perceive the stream of consciousness of all beings is something astonishing and, as I understand it, reserved only for the Buddhas.
Yeah, it's notice what precedes that. And he says it again and again. It's the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path. The entirety of the path was not available to the Buddha until he was the Buddha. He had spent time with various yogis in the forest, 6 years of extreme mental exercises and also self injury, sort of the idea, which occurs in many religious practices, that some sort of infliction of suffering on the body is good for you. Fasting until nearly dying, so forth. These were detrimental practices. These went in the wrong direction, but some of the practices were pure mind practices, concentration practice. They went in the right direction, but they didn't go far enough. And they didn't have the right view behind them. So he, because he's such a good person, he got out of the cult. He was in a cult. The Buddha, the Bodhisattva was in a cult of self-injury, authoritative teachings, and he darn near died. But how did he manage to drag himself out of this cult? It's because he was a good human who thought, this can't be right to do this self-injury. So I am leaving the cult. So now by the way, a lot of people don't want to leave cults because they're also leaving a community. And if you remember, he had his other friends who were devoted to these mortifying practices. They were disdainful of him when he left. They thought, you give up, you left, so forth. Anyway, he went off, and the first thing he thinks, he remembers his childhood. And he's about maybe 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. And he's at a festival where his father, who's the king, is making the first furrow in a plowing festival. He's planting the first part of a garden, right? Remember this whole thing about gardening. And the young Siddhartha Gautama is sitting under a shady, beautiful shady tree, as most sensible people do in the heat of India. He's surrounded by his relatives, particularly his aunt, who is being taken care of him. His mother died very early, when he was only 7 days old. And he is surrounded by love. And it's very comfortable. And the breeze, he's out under a tree, the breeze is blowing across his face. And as a child, he enters into what is called the first jhana. He enters into this beautiful state of serene and the serene, beautiful mind. So after dragging himself out of this cult of self-injury and deprivation, he has an associative memory of this. Isn't it interesting? He remembers being loved as a child. And this is the most healing thing. This gives him the strength to find his way. So he was loved as a child so much that he felt so safe that he just enjoyed the breeze blowing across his face and entered into this beautiful state of mind called the jhana. This is the 8th factor of the Eightfold Path. He thinks there's nothing to be feared in this. So this is, he's been told that, there's like worldly happiness and stuff. There's something to be feared in that. It's dangerous. And they are looking for a way out through self-mortification, so self-injury of the body and all this kind of stuff. He finds his way back to a very human experience, surrounded by love. You should love yourself. There's nothing harmful in that. There's nothing harmful. There's nothing to be feared in love, of this higher kind of love. And the mind, when it uses that as the basis, can enter into these beautiful states. So he enters into the state and goes deeper and deeper and deeper into the 4th jhana, profoundly deep. And it's out of the 4th jhana that he accesses this recall of past lives, an insight into how suffering occurs in human existence. And he universalizes it. It's not necessarily that he sees all other beings' consciousness. He sees how consciousness works. And it's a universal thing. It's like physics, it's like Einstein. He develops a theory which is universal, should apply everywhere, about gravity and light and things like this from his own. He doesn't have to know everybody else's mind or how it works on other planets. He just universalizes this. So this is, but notice, very importantly, because it's often dismissed in some forms of modern Buddhist teachings, the value of this samadhi, this 8th factor of the Eightfold Path. The Buddha didn't practice vipassana. He didn't go to a vipassana course. The vipassana was not known. It was not known until the Buddha arrives. He's not the Buddha until he's enlightened, right? So the vipassana is insight. He gets insight, but what does he get insight from? What are the preconditions for insight? Samadhi, the deep stillness and the safety of your basic human intuition that love is good and you should not harm yourself or anybody else. And that's safety. And now your mind can access this deeper clarity. And then that clear and focused mind can break through into insights. That is how it works.
Now we will have one question from the audience directly. Patricia P.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ajahn, for a beautiful Dhamma talk. My question is actually about samadhi. Can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. I would like to ask about maintaining samadhi in a daily life. After a 10-day silent retreat, we can experience equanimous mind, and it can be thanks to the separation from the world. And after we are coming back to the daily life, our mind become agitated little by little. And I am wondering is it possible to maintain this equanimous mind thanks to the daily practice and meditation, or it is only possible when we separate from the world and become a monk? Thank you.
No, you don't have to be a monk. But you do need to understand what it is, why we lose our what is called passaddhi. It's that peaceful state of mind, just short of samadhi. After we leave, if we're in a perfect condition where we're sitting and don't have any distractions, we can get into this samadhi perhaps. But after we leave and we're walking around and so forth, we can maintain the emotional well-being of samadhi, but we would call that passaddhi. This is the fifth of the enlightenment factors. The fifth factor of enlightenment, passaddhi. It's a tranquility. It's being energized, and it is joyful as well. But its characteristic is close to samadhi. You're close to samadhi. Now, how do we maintain it? Well, I'll tell you how you lose it instead. You lose it usually through contact with other people. It's not by bad weather or cars or trees or even cats and dogs. It's people. And usually the people are your family. Those close to you. The people who can push your buttons the most are the closest to you. So that is why people become monks. They step out of these close interactions with people because those type of have a lot of karmic weight to them. You have a lot of reactions to them. They're built in over decades or years, So that is you got to recognize that, okay, my interactions with my family and so forth can't just be regular stuff, because I have to it's like I have a baby that I'm carrying around here. I have to pay attention to this thing. Otherwise it's not being taken care of. So this passaddhi needs to be taken care of. And it means that you can't be in noisy, with a baby, you can't be in noisy places. You can't just bring them anywhere. They get upset and disturbed by this, So you are careful about particularly human contact. The other part which is optional, is media contact. So there's always big news stories that emphasize this tragic accident and this political situation. This also disturbs the mind. So you have to make a choice. You say, look, the world goes on, but I really am protecting this special state, and I really can't afford to get mixed up in this. I'm not going to do anything about it. So why am I just losing my serenity with this? With people, it's harder because, they expect certain things. But if you can find excuses to go to the library, to the park, to your room, a special appointment that you have made to leave the place so that you have breaks and so forth, you may have a chance of maintaining it in a longer way. But you're going to have to shape your environment, and it means that some things have to go in order to keep this present. So that's the compromises. And by the way, the Buddha did talk about lay people who had attained the first stage of enlightenment, but they had 17 children. So they did not have much time or opportunity for meditation. It impedes your progress, but you can make progress by going to these retreats or by meditating or by reading Dhamma or listening to Dhamma talks. You might even have a stage of enlightenment. But the household life, if it's very full, can be an impediment to your progress. And that's why the Buddha made a monastic sangha. It's easier as a monastic. And that's why he made it. It doesn't mean that you can't do it as a householder, but there are more impediments to the situation. It's like a concert musician. If they have to work as a carpenter, it's going to be very hard to play, at the A level on stage. I have seen, by the way, I saw one of the great cellists in the world, Rostropovich. He was one of the great Russian cellists, and he actually had to work. He was during the communist phase in Russia. He did work as a carpenter, and still maintained some the top sort of level of concert cellist. But it's so rare, So if you really want to be a good musician, it's a full-time task. If you want to be a good, progress, it's full-time, but sometimes you can't quit your day job. Yeah.
Okay, then third question from the questions before. Why do we forget our past lives? What is the key to remembering them or recalling them?
Yeah. Not only do we forget our past lives, we forget most of this life as well. Most people can't recall not even 10% of this life. There are people that can recall every moment of their lives in this life after the age of about 1.5 or 2. And that can be a burden. This is absolute memory. It's a very small percentage of people, but there's many, many psychological studies of people who have absolute memory of this life. And for most of us, it's an absolute mystery. Like, what did you have for breakfast on Wednesday at 9 a.m.? What were the color of your socks 27 years ago? And these people can remember. They'll tell you exactly what all that was. Most people can't remember what they had for breakfast yesterday, or the color of their socks. How many of you remember what color your socks were 3 days ago? Unless you're one of those people that wears the same color all 7 days of the week. Most of your life is gone. So it's no mystery that past lives would be gone. And by the way, in many cultures who have a full commitment to the idea of past lives, they consider it a misfortune if a child is born with memories of the past lives, because the kid identifies with the past life and has great trouble adjusting to this life. And they have certain sort of folk remedies for this. Indian folk remedy is putting you on a pot, like a child who insists they were such and such in a past life, and they have vivid memories of it. They put them on a potter's wheel and spin them counterclockwise until they're really dizzy, trying to make them forget their past life. So I don't know what the percentage is, maybe 1 in 10,000 children have vivid memories of their past life, and it's very hard to get in the new identity. Most of us, thank goodness, do not. We then adjust naturally and well to this life, because if you identify, maybe you were a high school athlete, and now you're 50 and you've just been selling insurance for the last 30 years, but your glory years were when you were 15, and you keep thinking of those and imagining yourself as that. That's a problem. That's identity with the past. So that's not a good thing. It's better to just get on with this life. However, yes, there are specific instructions about how to cultivate past life memories. And it's usually through practice of, first of all, the practice of these jhanas, this samadhi, stilling the mind, controlling the mind, getting into deep stillness. Very similar to hypnosis in a sense. This is how we can recall certain things under hypnosis that we can't recall under any other state. So psychologists use this all the time. So you first stilling the mind, etc., then working systematically backward through your life. You work systematically backward to your life till you come to that part where you can't remember. So that you're pushing through that part, but with especially focused, still mind. That is how the commentaries suggest that you possibly could revive memories. That they have specific exercises for how to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a question from the audience directly. Lisa, you raised the hand. I think we can't hear you probably. Do you have the microphone on?
No. How about now?
Yes.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Oh, so we watched a movie about a young girl that was 17 and she got a scholarship, was celebrating to go into college, and she went out and accidentally drinking and driving killed a family. Her intention was not to kill, but she killed a family. She went to jail and for 4 years prison, and she lost her scholarship. Is her karmic result? I can't imagine it's exactly the same as if she had intended, but what is the karmic result of that type of thing?
Yeah, her intention was not to kill. Probably the last thing on her mind. So it's accidental. And the reason why she only got 4 years in prison was because the law is very similar to karma, by the way. Modern American law, a lot of modern British law evaluates intention in actions and has results accordingly to that. And that's exactly the nature of Buddhist views of karma. So it was unintentional, but it was selfish and irresponsible. So she will have results of that. The vipaka, the results of karma, like what we call karma is the intention, like the seed, and then the fruit of that action will come to her as some sort of accidental, perhaps injury to her, but just due to negligence. And it may, in fact, be her own negligence. She'll go out into an icy street and not wearing the proper shoes for ice on the sidewalk and slip and fall and have an injury or something like that. It won't result in her death. She not intentionally causing the death of other beings. It's simply lack of responsibility and intoxication. So it will come back in that sense, but much rather mild, actually. Yeah.
Okay, and the next question from Vandana Lal, if I read correctly.
Thank you, Ajahn, again for your wisdom and your teachings. So thank you again for giving the simile of a beautiful garden. And I think some of us might be cultivating that garden, and finally we see the fruit of all the flowers growing, and we can enter in the garden as whenever we want. I'm just talking about right now, maybe some of us. So just wanting to understand that after you know that you have that beautiful garden, but after doing so much hard work, keeping the precepts and following the path for 5-6 years, you are able to enter into this garden for like almost a year now. However, now you also started seeing the flowers dying sometime, and you know that flowers are not going to last forever, but still you want to stay in that garden because you know that you feel very happy in the garden. And Buddha also wants us to see the reality as it is, that this garden is not going to last forever. So how do you suggest for lay people to cultivate that? Because we already have other dukkha from the samsara, the worldly life, the job, and the family. You want to stay in this garden forever, but you need to go back and deal with that. And you also know the flowers are also not lasting when you go there. You go there, you deal with that, and you somehow absorb that energy, and you lose your sila sometime. So I'm just wanted to understand this garden is keep on growing and growing. It's beautiful, and you want to spend time there. But how do you actually see the Four Noble Truth in that? That is not going to last. Ultimately, it's not going to last. I don't know if I make sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's an emphasis on impermanence of everything, including mental states. But here's the important thing. There's a big mistake made in lots of approaches to this. The idea that everything's impermanent, including the emotional experiences, does not mean that the practice is simply to regard the contents of your mind rising and passing away without concern for the quality of the contents rising and passing away. It is, you are not indifferent to the contents of your mind. The contents of your mind are shaped by your attachments. And so somebody who says that they see anger rising and passing away, but they just observe it, is mistake. You are not merely an observer of your anger. You are angry. And that's called an attachment. And you are angry because you are attached. You are not a detached observer of your own unbeautiful states. And so what you see is the 7 factors of the enlightened mind: mindfulness, investigation of Dhamma, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. These are the 7 qualities, emotional qualities of the enlightened mind. Notice that anger and greed, etc., are not there in your garden. They're not there. They don't arise and pass away. The 7 factors of enlightenment do change and rise and pass away, but they pass away into another beautiful state. So energy may pass into joy. Joy may pass into tranquility. Tranquility may pass into equanimity, and equanimity may go back to loving kindness or investigation. But they don't go out of that circle. They don't go into the negative parts. So greed, hatred, and delusion are impermanent, and they cease completely. But what does not cease are the positive parts. The enlightened mind is functioning without greed, hatred, and delusion. And those states, energy, joy, tranquility, equanimity, investigation, persist until the end of that being's existence. They do not fall away. You do not regress. And greed, hatred, and delusion do not arise. Any concern about the impermanence of those is no concern at all, because none of those emotional factors have any negative concern. So you don't have sadness that it's all impermanent or anything like this. It's it's not regressive, and the negative emotional structures do not re-arise. They cease and do not re-arise, and that's the definition of enlightenment. If they're re-arising or anything, and you're watching with detachment, it means that you're not enlightened. You might have temporary access to these things, joy and energy, loving kindness, everything. But if they dissolve on you and negative things come back, it means that you need to practice more and push towards this until those negative things do not occur anymore. Not that you prevent them anymore. They simply can't arise. They're not, the foundations of them are simply not there. There is no seed there, So the weeds in your garden have been taken out by the roots, so they can't regrow. They're gone. And this is exactly the metaphor, the simile that the Buddha gives. This is the removal of what are called samyojanas, the 10 fetters are uprooted completely and cannot be restored. Okay, I think we have time for one more question here. Yeah.
This last question will be asked by Yalu, who has been practicing for many years. Yalu is from Sweden. Please, could you ask the question?
Okay. Dear Ajahn Sona, thanks a lot for your great talks. My question is that in earlier Buddhist texts, it seems that it's easier to attain stream entry. For example, a lot of lay people just attain the stream entry simply after listening to one single Dhamma. I'm wondering if it is still possible nowadays. If it is yes, how many years of devoted practice is required? Although I know that time is not necessarily a good criterion to judge. That's my question. Thank you.
Yes, there's a lot of speculation about that. It seems at the time of the Buddha, householders, and he talks about it in a single village, there were 500 people who attained a first stage of enlightenment, Sotapanna. They got enlightened by the boatload during one talk. So quite remarkable, marvelous. That seems to be that they had the good karma, we should say, of having lived at the time of a fully enlightened Buddha and got to hear him directly. So he would have been very charismatic, an enormous presence with the very voice that he was uttering with and the authority he had pulled him into this, pulled him over the line into this stage of enlightenment. And there are commentary. Well, he did predict that the Dhamma would eventually be lost to the world. Eventually, so much artificial or wrong Dhamma appears that it's all confusion. And so eventually it disappears from the world. It's no longer, the good Dhamma is no longer available. We don't seem to be at that stage yet. We still have access to these early teachings. And it seems that people are still getting enlightened, but not by the boatload. What the Buddha did say, and which is a good answer to this question, is wherever the Eightfold Path is found, there you will find people of the first, second, third, and fourth stage of enlightenment. Wherever the Eightfold Path is not found, there you will not find people of those stages of enlightenment. So it's whether one can find the Eightfold Path that determines whether one can get enlightened, and not the age that we're in. This is another interpretation, as a commentarial sense, that every 500 years there's a reduction in the capacity of people to understand the Eightfold Path. And so this is commentarial, by the way. So every 500 years, so the first 500 years, arahants are available. Full enlightenment is available. And then the next 500 years, anagami, the third stage, is available. Next 500 years, sakadagami, the second stage. And then the last 500 years, Sotapanna. And this is pervasive in Asia. You'll find this belief that at a certain time, it was no longer possible to attain enlightenment. So all we could do is preserve the teachings, but nobody could get enlightened. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you teach them that, if you believe that, then it tends to deflate any attempt. But the commentary goes on to say that at the end of those, 4 cycles down, there's a new cycle where we pop up again to the possibility of arahants. And so certainly in the Thai forest tradition, you have reports of monks attaining arahantship, and different stages of this. And you see lay people reporting capacities for jhanas and this kind of stuff. So, and other contemporary countries, like almost a different monastery, a monastery in the next village would believe there is no possibility for enlightenment. And then another monastery is saying, we have 3 second stage of enlightenment people here, And they believe that it is possible to attain enlightenment, and we believe that these people have attained enlightenment. This monastery says enlightenment is no longer possible, so we don't try to attain enlightenment because it's not possible anymore. So you're going to find this this far apart. You have a choice as a person what you're going to go with. And I think one has nothing to lose by thinking it may be possible to attain enlightenment. I think you got everything to lose by thinking that you can't attain enlightenment, and nothing to gain by that. And everything to gain and nothing to lose by thinking wherever the Eightfold Path is found, there enlightened people are. The other part is, do not make predictions about your own possibilities. Do not self-evaluate. I don't think I'm the kind that can get this. I don't think I can attain enlightenment. Or, I think I can attain enlightenment. I'm one of those people that can attain enlightenment. Stop that. You can't, you really don't know. All you can do is put in the causes for enlightenment. And they're fairly clear. It's the Eightfold Path. And then you will find out if you were one of those persons who could or couldn't. But you shouldn't self-evaluate ahead of time thinking, I can't or I can. It's a waste of time. You just do it. You just put in the causes, and that's all that's necessary. Yeah.
Sadhu.
Okay. We
Tak.
will wrap up.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Sadhu,
meeting
sadhu.
us, and thank you very much for your wisdom and your kindness and your generosity. Thank you very much, and have a good day and have a good meal. And thank you everybody for coming.
Yes. Yes. Much merit to all of you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ajahn, sadhu,
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Thank you.
Ajahn
Thank
Sona.
you, Ajahn.
Thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu,
Thank you,
sadhu.
everyone.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. Sadhu,
Take
sadhu,
care.
sadhu.
Sadhu.
Thank you,
By the way,
sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow is I will be on YouTube with a live question and answer. And if you didn't get a question in today, you could possibly get it answered tomorrow at 9:30 Pacific time tomorrow live. Oh, sorry, 9 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. I'll answer about 10 questions on live stream Q&A. Yeah. Ajahn Sona's channel, YouTube.
The
Okay.
official channel.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Thank
Ajahn.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
From all the animal world.
Bye-bye.
Bye.